What if I told you that Snow White may be an even worse financial disaster than Disney's Little Mermaid remake, which has been a huge financial disaster, losing approximately $150 million more than anybody could have predicted? With a huge production budget and a tremendous issue around her, Rachel Zler, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you enjoy this, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Disney is facing the possibility of an even bigger flop. Could this be the end of their live-action remakes as we know them? How did The Little Mermaid fail so badly despite Disney's best efforts? Stay tuned as we break down these shocking losses and what it means for Disney's future. I'm quite grateful for that. Disney took a beloved classic and turned it into a live-action spectacle, but the results were disastrous despite their best efforts, including a huge marketing push. The Little Mermaid needed to pull in at least $700 to $800 million just to break even, but it didn't even reach $600 million, falling far short of expectations. This was a huge blow, especially considering the hype in media coverage that tried to keep the movie afloat even when all we had were Disney's own projections. It was clear that this remake was in serious financial trouble when The Little Mermaids was released. Every financial detail a year later, we finally have the official numbers thanks to legal filings in the UK, where the movie was filmed. It's evident that Disney suffered a significant loss on this project, despite headlines initially reporting a $5 million loss for The Little Mermaid. This figure is misleading because it doesn't account for the massive marketing expenses when you factor in the $140 million marketing push. Loss is much greater, closer to $150 million. Despite all the buzz and efforts to promote the film, it ended up being a significant financial failure for Disney. Caroline Reed from Forbes provided an important analysis on the financial impact of The Little Mermaid. She highlights the tax documents that Disney is required to file in the UK, which give us a clearer picture. The movie industry is no stranger to astronomical costs, but what's often hidden from the public eye is the full scope of these expenses. While box office numbers make headlines, the actual financial outcomes are more complicated, particularly when the full picture of production and marketing costs are considered. One recent example is Disney's live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid. According to a report by entertainment analyst Reed, the film resulted in a reported $5 million loss at the box office. At first glance, this seems like a relatively small figure for a movie backed by such a massive studio. However, this loss only tells a fraction of the story. When you take a closer look at the full production and marketing costs, the actual financial impact on Disney becomes much clearer and much more concerning. The production cost for The Little Mermaid soared to a staggering $355 million, a monumental figure for any film but especially notable for a movie of this nature. This amount does not even account for the marketing budget, which is often substantial for Disney's tentpole releases. Marketing can add tens of millions of dollars to the overall cost, if not more, especially for global campaigns designed to capture the attention of audiences across multiple continents. Thus, while the reported $5 million loss might not sound overly significant, once you factor in marketing and the full production budget, the true loss balloons far beyond that figure. In terms of box office performance, The Little Mermaid grossed a respectable $570 million worldwide, but when you compare this to Disney's previous live-action adaptations, it pales in comparison. For instance, The Lion King 2019 brought in an impressive $1.7 billion, and Aladdin 2019 reached $1 billion. These numbers set a high bar, making The Little Mermaid seem like a relative underperformer, especially considering the scale of the investment Disney poured into its production. One crucial detail to keep in mind is that studios typically don't keep the full gross earnings from box office receipts. Theaters, especially international ones, take a significant cut of the revenue. According to film industry expert Stephen Follows, Disney likely retained around 50% of its domestic box office earnings and only around 40% of international earnings, with even lower returns from China, where Hollywood movies often face challenges at the box office due to quotas and other restrictions. In this case, Disney's take on The Little Mermaid as $570 million gross would have been around $285 million. Unfortunately, this sum does not come close to covering the film's production cost. With a production budget of $355 million, even after accounting for the $65 million UK tax rebate, which Disney received as part of a 25% reimbursement on production expenses, the studio was left with a hefty net cost of around $300 million. This means that even though the film grossed a substantial amount globally, the gap between what Disney earned and what it spent was still wide, resulting in significant financial losses. The marketing budget plays a pivotal role in these financial calculations. Blockbuster films like The Little Mermaid often come with marketing campaigns that are nearly as expensive as the production costs. While Disney has not disclosed the exact figures for The Little Mermaid as marketing, it's not uncommon for marketing budgets to range from $100 million to $100 million to $150 million for films of this scale. When this is added to the already hefty production costs, it's easy to see how the film's financial outlook becomes more precarious. Now, with the upcoming Snow White remake on the horizon, many industry experts anticipate that its production costs will be in a similar, if not higher, ballpark compared to The Little Mermaid. Reports have already surfaced that Disney has poured a substantial amount of money into reshoots and additional production expenses, even before the film has been completed or released. Given the current state of Hollywood, where visual effects, elaborate sets, and star-studded casts contribute significantly to production budgets, it wouldn't be surprising to see Snow White follow in The Little Mermaid's footsteps in terms of costs. Not being transparent makes these financial reports frustrating. Disney, like many major studios, has a habit of keeping specific details under wraps, downplaying spending or reframing financial losses to maintain a positive public image. They often highlight gross earnings while minimizing the discussion around how much was spent to achieve those numbers, giving the impression of greater profitability than what is actually the case. However, Disney's expenditures can't always be entirely hidden, especially in the UK. The UK government offers a 25% tax rebate for films produced in the country, but in order to qualify for these tax benefits, Disney must publicly disclose its spending. As a result, certain financial figures eventually come to light, offering a rare glimpse into the true cost of these productions. This transparency allowed the public to learn that The Little Mermaid cost Disney $355 million to produce, and even with the $60 to $65 million tax rebate, the studio was left with a significant bill. Adding marketing costs to the mix shows how simple it is for big-budget films to end up losing money, despite respectable box office earnings. In Disney's case, the company is left grappling with the fact that, although The Little Mermaid grossed more than $500 million worldwide, it was still nowhere near the box office successes of its predecessors like The Lion King or Aladdin. It raises questions about the long-term sustainability of such high-budget productions, particularly as Disney continues to pursue live-action remakes of its classic animated films. The company has built a lucrative franchise model around these remakes, but as production costs soar, the margin for error becomes smaller. Every underperforming film chips away at the profits from their bigger hits, making it increasingly important for Disney to find ways to keep production and marketing costs in check, while still delivering the kind of spectacle that audiences expect from its blockbuster films. Was around $290 million subtracting Disney's share from the box office, they ended up with a $5 million loss. But here's the key, this number doesn't factor in the $140 million spent on marketing when you include that the movie actually resulted in a $145 million loss. Could Disney have made some money back from merchandise? Maybe, but it's unlikely. The world of film finance is complicated, and when it comes to blockbuster films, it is even more so. At first glance, Disney's live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid might seem like a box office success. After all, it grossed $570 million worldwide, a figure that would make most studios happy. But when you dig deeper into the numbers, it becomes clear that The Little Mermaid was far from the smash hit Disney had hoped for. Despite the massive production budget and marketing push, the film underperformed in several critical areas, leaving Disney grappling with financial losses. One of the key issues facing The Little Mermaid was its budget. The film's production cost alone ballooned to an estimated $355 million. This astronomical figure doesn't even account for the marketing budget, which can often add tens or even hundreds of millions more to a film's overall expenses. For a film to be profitable, it needs to recoup not just its production costs but also its marketing and distribution expenses, which can often be equal to or greater than the production budget. The Little Mermaid grossed $570 million globally, but that was not enough to cover the full extent of the expenses incurred. Disney, like most major studios, only retains about half of the box office gross, with the rest going to theaters. This means that Disney likely earned around $285 million from The Little Mermaid as global box office run. While that might sound like a decent sum, it doesn't come close to covering the $355 million production cost, let alone the additional costs for marketing and distribution. As a result, when all is said and done, Disney was left with a substantial deficit, making The Little Mermaid a financial flop, despite its seemingly impressive global box office total. In the past, Disney could have relied on physical media sales such as Blu-rays and DVDs to help offset some of the losses from underperforming films. For many years, these sales provided a significant secondary revenue stream for studios, often generating millions in additional revenue. However, with the rise of streaming services, physical media sales have been in sharp decline. Consumers are far more likely to watch films on demand via platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney's own streaming service, Disney+, rather than purchase physical copies of movies. This shift has significantly reduced the revenue Disney can expect to make from post-theatrical sales, further exacerbating the financial issues surrounding The Little Mermaid. The decline in physical media sales isn't the only issue Disney faces. Historically, the company could license its films to third-party streaming platforms, such as Netflix, for a hefty fee. In some cases, Disney would earn $80 to $100 million from these deals, providing a lucrative source of additional income. However, with the launch of Disney+, the company opted to keep its content in-house. Rather than licensing its films to other streaming services, Disney now puts its content exclusively on Disney+ in an effort to drive subscriptions and retain control over its intellectual property. While this strategy makes sense from a brand-building perspective, it hasn't been as financially rewarding as Disney might have hoped. Disney+, while popular, has not performed as strongly as the company initially projected. The streaming service has faced challenges in sustaining growth, particularly as competition from platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and HBO Max has intensified. Moreover, Disney+'s profitability has been impacted by the high cost of producing original content and maintaining a vast library of films and shows. The failure of The Little Mermaid to become a major box office success is emblematic of a larger issue facing Disney and the film industry as a whole. As the dominance of physical media fades and the streaming landscape becomes more crowded and competitive, studios are struggling to find new ways to monetize their content effectively. While streaming services like Disney+ offer an opportunity to generate recurring revenue through subscriptions, they do not provide the same immediate financial returns as licensing deals with third-party platforms. In light of these challenges, it's becoming increasingly difficult for studios to justify the massive budgets of blockbuster films like The Little Mermaid. High production and marketing costs are no longer being offset by strong box office performance and the supplementary income from physical media and licensing deals that studios once relied upon. As a result, Disney, like many other major studios, is finding it harder to turn a profit on its most expensive films. While Disney has attempted to spin the narrative, painting The Little Mermaid as a success in terms of audience reception and cultural impact, the financial reality tells a different story. When you tally up the production costs, marketing expenses, and box office earnings, it becomes clear that the film was a major flop from a financial standpoint. This is a tough pill to swallow for Disney, a company that has built its reputation on creating box office juggernauts. Moreover, the disappointing performance of The Little Mermaid raises concerns about the future of Disney's live-action remakes. While the company has enjoyed massive success with films like The Lion King 2019 and Aladdin 2019, both of which grossed over $1 billion, not every remake is guaranteed to replicate that success. As production costs continue to rise and the streaming landscape shifts, Disney will need to carefully evaluate its strategy moving forward. The era of spending hundreds of millions of dollars on live-action adaptations of animated classics may be coming to an end, especially if the returns fail to justify the investment. Ultimately, The Little Mermaid serves as a cautionary tale for the film industry. Big budgets and beloved intellectual property are no longer enough to guarantee box office success, especially in a world where consumer behavior is shifting rapidly. For Disney, the challenge moving forward will be finding ways to balance the costs of producing high-quality content with the evolving landscape of film distribution and monetization. While Disney has the resources and brand power to weather these challenges, it is clear that the path to profitability in the modern film industry is more complex than ever before. Loss comes to nearly $150 million. Looking ahead, the Snow White remake, which has faced significant backlash and likely has a similar budget if not higher, could be an even bigger disaster. With the current trends and the negative reception already surrounding the film, we might see an even more substantial loss when it hits theaters next year. Disney's attempts showcase their diversity and audacious decisions, but financial failure may ultimately take center stage. Disney boldly demonstrated their commitment to diversity with their Latina Snow White and Black Little Mermaid adaptations, but after a few years, the financial results paint a different picture, making it evident that their risky decisions aren't having the desired effect. What do you think of Disney's strategy and the financial results? Please leave your ideas in the comments section below. If you liked the video, please press the bell symbol to get notifications on our newest material. Also, please subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. See you soon.